Welcome to the Echo of Dream Lab. Before we settle into the deep, ancient history of our planet, if you find peace in these echoes, we invite you to join our laboratory by subscribing. Your presence helps our journey continue. Now, let the world of today dissolve. Close your eyes and breathe slowly. We are traveling back, past the cities, past the empires, past the very first human breath. We are entering a world that breathed a different air. A world of giants. Tonight, we trace the footprints of those who ruled for 165 million years. From the first, humble pulse of life in the Triassic, to the final, long shadow of the Cretaceous. The giants are gone, but their echoes remain. Let the science soothe you. Let the ancient past become your sanctuary. Let us begin. The long darkness. Weeks and months after impact, the sun had effectively disappeared. Oh, it was still there. Still shining. Still fusing hydrogen into helium. Still pouring out energy. But from the surface of the Earth, it was invisible. Hidden behind a shroud of dust, ash, and smoke so thick that no light could penetrate. Scientists call this impact winter. But that term doesn't fully capture the horror. This wasn't like winter as we know it. This was darkness. Total, complete, absolute darkness. 4 months. Perhaps as long as 2 years. The Earth was plunged into a night that never ended. The temperature dropped catastrophically. In some climate models, scientists estimate a temperature decrease of 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. In some regions, temperatures dropped even more. In weeks, Earth went from a warm, humid, greenhouse climate, where temperatures were pleasant year-round, to a frozen wasteland. An impact winter more severe than any ice age. Colder than the depths of the last glacial maximum for photosynthetic organisms. This was apocalyptic. Plants need sunlight. It's not optional. Without it, they die. And when the plants die, everything that depends on them dies too. This is called a trophic cascade. The collapse of an ecosystem from the bottom up, on land. The food chain collapsed rapidly. Herbivorous dinosaurs, unable to find vegetation, began to starve. These animals had enormous food requirements. A large sauropod might have needed 400 to 500 kilograms of vegetation daily, just to maintain its body weight. When the plants died, these giants had nowhere to turn the massive sauropods. Diplodocus, Brachiosaurus, Apatosaurus, if any still existed in the late Cretaceous, would have died first. Their bodies littering the landscape. Imagine a creature weighing 70 tons, starving to death. It would have taken weeks, months perhaps. A slow, agonizing death, the hadrosaurs followed. These duck-billed dinosaurs, some of the most successful herbivores of the late Cretaceous. They tried to survive on whatever they could find. Dead vegetation, bark, roots. But it wasn't enough. They weakened, fell, died. Then the ceratopsians, triceratops, with their massive frills and horns, designed for combat, for display, but useless against starvation. The ankylosaurs, living tanks covered in bony armor, with massive tail clubs that could shatter bone. They were nearly invulnerable to predators. But armor couldn't protect against hunger. These animals, which had thrived for millions of years, were helpless against starvation. No amount of armor, no defensive weapons, no size advantage could save them from the fundamental reality. No food equals death. And there was no food. Anywhere, the carnivores lasted a bit longer. At first, they feasted on the carcasses. There was plenty of dead meat. The herbivores dying by the millions. Their bodies, frozen, preserved by the cold. A feast. For a while, the great predators, Tyrannosaurus rex, the various dromaeosaurs, the smaller theropods, they scavenged. They fed on the dead. But meat rots, even in cold conditions. And soon, the food ran out. The carcasses were picked clean, consumed, gone. Then the carnivores turned on each other. Evidence suggests that some dinosaurs practiced cannibalism in their final days. Bite marks on bones from members of their own species. Desperate acts in desperate times. But even this couldn't sustain them, and then they too began to starve. These apex predators, these rulers of the Cretaceous world, reduced to weakened, starving shadows of their former selves, too weak to hunt. Even if there had been prey, they collapsed. They died. The mighty Tyrannosaurus rex, brought down not by a rival, but by hunger. In the oceans, the situation was equally catastrophic. Perhaps even more so. Phytoplankton, the microscopic plants at the base of the marine food web, died off en masse. Without sunlight, they couldn't photosynthesize. Without photosynthesis, they died. And with the phytoplankton gone, the entire ocean food web collapsed. Zooplankton, tiny animals that feed on phytoplankton, starved. Small fish that feed on zooplankton, starved. Larger fish, starved. All the way up the food chain. From the smallest organisms to the largest, the ammonites. Ancient cephalopods that had survived for 350 million years, through countless climate changes. Through previous mass extinctions, through the rise and fall of entire ecosystems, went extinct. Every single species, every single ammonite on Earth, gone. After 350 million years. They couldn't survive the asteroid, the mosasaurs, dominant marine predators of the late Cretaceous. Some, reaching lengths of 50 feet. Apex predators with no natural enemies. Died out, completely. The plesiosaurs, with their long necks and flippers, vanished. Marine reptiles as a group, except for sea turtles and some crocodilians, were erased from existence, even in the deep ocean, where sunlight never reaches anyway. The extinction was severe, because the deep ocean depends on organic material sinking from the surface. Marine snow, dead organisms, fecal matter, falling from above. This feeds the deep ocean ecosystems. But with the surface ecosystems dead, the marine snow stopped falling, and even the deep ocean starved. This darkness persisted for months, perhaps a year. Perhaps longer. The exact duration is debated, but the evidence suggests at least several months of total darkness, followed by gradually increasing light as the debris slowly settled. During this time, the Earth was a frozen, dark, lifeless nightmare. The once thriving planet, teeming with life, had become a tomb. Chapter 13, the acid rain and poisoned oceans, but we're not done. Not even close. Because the darkness and cold weren't the only problems. The impact had other, more insidious effects. Remember the location of the impact. A shallow sea, with limestone and gypsum in the bedrock. When these minerals were vaporized at extreme temperatures, they released massive quantities of sulfur and carbon dioxide. This sulfur combined with moisture in the atmosphere, creating sulfuric acid rain. On a global scale, this wasn't ordinary acid rain. Not the kind caused by industrial pollution. This was concentrated, powerful, deadly rain that could burn flesh, kill plants, poison water sources. For months, perhaps years. The rain that fell was acidic, pH levels dropping to dangerous levels. Any plants that had survived the initial fires, that had survived the freezing cold, now faced acid rain, burning their leaves, damaging their roots, poisoning the soil. For the plant kingdom, already devastated, this was another hammer blow. The oceans suffered even more. The acid rain, combined with the massive input of sulfur and carbon dioxide, changed ocean chemistry dramatically. The pH of seawater dropped, making it more acidic. This process, ocean acidification, had devastating effects. Many marine organisms, especially those with calcium carbonate shells or skeletons, were vulnerable. Coral reefs, already stressed by temperature changes, began to dissolve. Shellfish, crustaceans, planktonic organisms with calcium shells. They couldn't maintain their shells in the acidic water. They died. The ocean also experienced anoxia, oxygen depletion. With the surface ecosystems dead, no photosynthesis was occurring. Oxygen levels dropped, dead organic matter sinking to the bottom, decomposing, consuming what little oxygen remained. Large areas of the ocean became oxygen-depleted dead zones, bottom-dwelling organisms. Fish, invertebrates, anything that needed oxygen to survive, suffocated. The fossil record shows evidence of mass die-offs, layers of sediment packed with fossils. All from the same time period. All dead. Chapter 14, Who survived and why, but not everything died. If everything had died, we wouldn't be here. Life, somehow, persisted. In the darkest hour. In the frozen wastelands. In the poisoned oceans. Some organisms survived. But what survived? And more importantly, why, on land? The survivors shared certain characteristics. Patterns emerge when we study the fossil record. Rules. Not absolute, but tendencies. Factors that increased survival probability. First, size. They were small, almost without exception. Most animals that survived weighed less than 25 kilograms, about 55 pounds. This is called the Lilliput effect. After the extinction, the average size of animals decreased dramatically. Why did small size help? Multiple reasons. Small body size meant lower food requirements. A crucial advantage when food was scarce. A mouse can survive on seeds and insects. An elephant cannot. Small animals could hide in burrows, underground. Protected from the thermal pulse. From the cold. From predators. The data is stark. All non-avian dinosaurs weighing more than 25 kilograms went extinct. All of them. Not one large land animal survived. This wasn't random, this was physics. Biology. Thermodynamics. Large animals need too much food. The extended period of scarcity killed them all. Second, diet. Survivors could utilize alternative food sources. Seeds, nuts, tubers, carrion, insects. These things could survive. Buried, dormant, waiting for better conditions. Animals that could eat these things had a chance. Seeds are particularly important. Many plants produce seeds that can remain viable for years, decades even, buried in the soil, waiting for the right conditions to germinate. Animals that could survive on seeds had a food source, even when no plants were growing. Insects also survived relatively well. Many insects have life cycles that can persist through harsh conditions. Eggs, larvae, pupae, dormant stages that can survive without food, without warmth, for extended periods. Insectivores had a food source. Third, habitat. Many survivors were burrowers. Underground burrows offered protection from the initial thermal pulse, from the cold of impact winter, from predators. Mammals, mostly small and nocturnal, often lived in burrows. This gave them a massive advantage. Aquatic and semi-aquatic animals also did relatively well. Water provides insulation, protection from temperature extremes. Turtles, crocodilians, amphibians. Many survived. Their metabolism, being ectothermic, meant they could survive long periods without food. Fourth, metabolism. This is crucial. Ectothermic animals, cold-blooded, had lower metabolic requirements. They could survive months without food. They could tolerate temperature extremes. Their energy needs were minimal. Crocodilians are a perfect example. These animals, close relatives of dinosaurs, survived when dinosaurs did not. Why? Because crocodiles can go months without eating. Their metabolism is low. They don't maintain a constant body temperature. They can tolerate extreme conditions. They survived. Birds survived. But not all birds. The large flightless birds went extinct. The toothed birds, an entire group called enantiorniths, they all disappeared. The specialized flying birds, many went extinct. But some survived. Particularly, smaller, seed-eating birds, ground-dwelling birds. These made it through. Why did some birds survive when non-avian dinosaurs did not? Several theories. Their small size certainly helped. Their ability to fly, to cover large distances searching for food, may have been crucial. Their dietary flexibility. Many modern birds can eat a variety of foods. This adaptability may have saved them. Mammals survived in significant numbers. Not all mammals. Some groups went extinct. But many lineages made it through. Small mammals, burrowing mammals, omnivorous mammals. They had all the right characteristics. Small size, flexible diet, underground lifestyle, low visibility to predators in the oceans. The pattern was similar. Animals that could survive on detritus, on dead organic matter sinking from the surface, had a chance. Filter feeders, that could go dormant. Scavengers. Deep-sea creatures already adapted to darkness and cold. They survived. Fish survived relatively well. Especially small fish. Bottom feeders, scavengers. Sharks made it through. Their adaptability. Their diverse diets, their efficient metabolism. All helped. Bony fish. Ray-finned fish. They persisted. Sea turtles survived. Every modern sea turtle lineage passed through the KPG, extinction. Why? Probably several factors. Their omnivorous diet. Their ability to go long periods without food. Their protective shells. Their life history. With long-lived adults that could outlast harsh conditions, but the key pattern is clear. Specialists died. Generalists survived. Animals adapted to very specific diets. Specific temperature ranges. Specific habitats. They had no flexibility when conditions changed. But animals that could eat many things. Live in many places. Tolerate a range of conditions. They could adapt. Chapter 15, The Recovery. A new world emerges when the dust finally settled. When the sunlight finally returned. Filtering through a still hazy atmosphere. What remained? A planet transformed, damaged. Scarred. But not dead. The first signs of recovery came quickly. Faster than anyone might have expected. Within weeks of the sunlight returning, some plants began to sprout from dormant seeds. Life. Resilient. Persistent. Irrepressible. Was already fighting back. Ferns were among the first. Particularly well adapted to disturbance and low light. Ferns reproduce through spores, which can survive harsh conditions, and ferns can grow quickly, colonizing disturbed ground. In some locations, the fossil record shows a fern spike. A brief period where ferns dominated the vegetation. Before other plants returned, this fern spike is visible in the geological record. A layer of rock. Just above the KPG boundary. Rich in fern spores. It tells us that ferns exploded in abundance. Covering the landscape. Creating a world that looked nothing like the Cretaceous. A world of ferns. Stretching to the horizon. No trees. No forests. Just ferns. And devastation, but slowly. Other plants returned. Sprouting from seeds. From roots that had survived underground. From propagules carried by water. By wind. Mosses appeared. Lichens. Small flowering plants. The process was slow. Gradual, taking thousands of years. But vegetation returned, in the oceans. Productivity slowly resumed. Phytoplankton bloomed. The first to return were probably cyanobacteria. Able to survive harsh conditions. able to photosynthesize even with reduced sunlight. They formed the base of a new food web. A simplified one, but functional. Zooplankton returned, feeding on the phytoplankton. Small fish returned, feeding on the zooplankton. The marine food web, shattered by the extinction, began to rebuild. From the bottom up. Slowly. Gradually. Taking thousands of years. But life returned, on land. The survivors emerged from their burrows. From their hiding places, from wherever they had sheltered during the catastrophe. They found a world, empty of large predators. Empty of large herbivores. Empty of the animals that had dominated for so long. It was a world of opportunity. If you were small enough, flexible enough, tough enough to have survived the early Paleogene, the Paleocene epoch. This was a time of recovery, but also a time of profound change. The dinosaurs were gone. The pterosaurs were gone. The marine reptiles were gone. The ammonites were gone. The world was empty, but nature abhors a vacuum. And the survivors. They seized the opportunity, mammals. Barely noticeable throughout the Mesozoic. Suddenly had their chance. For 160 million years. They had lived in the shadows. Small, nocturnal. Eating insects and seeds. Hiding from dinosaurs. But now, the dinosaurs were gone. And all those ecological niches. All those roles in the ecosystem were vacant. Mammals began to diversify. Within a million years. They had doubled in size, within 10 million years. Some reached the size of large dogs. They were still small by dinosaur standards. But they were growing. Adapting. Evolving. They experimented with different lifestyles. Some became herbivores, developing teeth suited for grinding plants. Some became carnivores, developing sharp teeth and claws for hunting. Some took to the trees, developing grasping hands and forward-facing eyes. Some went back to the water, developing streamlined bodies and flippers. The ancestors of whales, this is called an adaptive radiation. When a group suddenly diversifies into many forms, filling empty ecological niches. It happens after mass extinctions, after the removal of dominant groups. Life, given the opportunity, explodes. In diversity. Birds did the same. The survivors, those small, seed-eating, ground-dwelling birds that made it through. They gave rise to all modern bird groups, passerines, the perching birds, songbirds, waterfowl, ducks, geese, swans, raptors, hawks, eagles, owls, flightless birds, ostriches, emus, penguins. Within 20 million years, birds had filled the skies again, adapted to every continent, every habitat. Every ecological niche available to flying animals, the recovery was not linear. There were setbacks. The climate remained unstable for millions of years. The Deccan Traps volcanism, which had started before the impact, continued for hundreds of thousands of years afterward. This added to the environmental stress, delaying recovery. There's evidence of a warm period shortly after the extinction, called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, about 10 million years after the KPG extinction. During this time, global temperatures spiked, rising by 5 to 8 degrees Celsius in a few thousand years. This was caused by massive carbon release, possibly from volcanic activity, possibly from methane hydrates in the ocean, but life persisted, adapted, carried on, and gradually, over millions of years, the Earth's ecosystem stabilized. Biodiversity increased. Complexity returned. The scars of the extinction began to heal, but it took time. A long time. The first large mammals didn't appear until about 10 million years after the extinction. And even then, they were modest in size compared to dinosaurs. The largest land mammals, animals like Indracotherium, in the Oligocene, about 30 million years ago, reached weights of about 15 to 20 tons. Large, but not as large as the largest sauropods. Why did it take so long for large animals to evolve again? Several reasons. Ecosystems needed to rebuild. Plants needed to evolve new forms. More productive. More nutritious. Food webs needed to stabilize. You can't have large herbivores without substantial vegetation. You can't have large carnivores without large herbivores to hunt. Everything had to develop together, step by step. Over millions of years. Chapter 16, the scientific detective story, for most of human history. We had no idea this story had happened. Dinosaur bones were found. Occasionally. Mysteriously. But they were misunderstood, attributed to giants, dragons, mythical creatures from ancient legends. The concept of extinction itself was controversial. Many scholars believed that God would not allow any of his creations to go extinct. That missing species must still exist. Somewhere, the word dinosaur wasn't coined until 1842. by British anatomist Richard Owen. He examined fossilized bones and teeth, and realized they belonged to a previously unknown group of reptiles. Terrible lizards. Dinosauria. Even then, scientists thought dinosaurs were slow, stupid, cold-blooded reptiles, destined for extinction by their own inadequacy. Inferior to mammals, for over a century. This view persisted. Dinosaurs were seen as evolutionary failures. Primitive creatures that couldn't compete. That were replaced by superior mammals. The idea that their extinction was sudden, catastrophic, was not considered. The idea that dinosaurs went extinct due to an asteroid impact. That came much later. And it was controversial. Fiercely debated. Even ridiculed by many scientists. The story begins in the late 1970s. In Gubbio, a beautiful medieval town in the mountains of central Italy, geologist Walter Alvarez was studying a thin layer of clay at the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary. This layer, found in many places around the world, marks the transition between the Cretaceous and Paleogene periods. The moment of the extinction, Walter wanted to know how much time this clay layer represented. Days, years, millennia? To answer this, he needed a way to measure the deposition rate. His father, Luis Alvarez, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, suggested they measure the concentration of iridium in the clay. Iridium is a rare element, scarce in Earth's crust, but relatively common in asteroids and comets. It rains down on Earth constantly, at a steady rate, from cosmic dust. If you know the deposition rate of iridium, you can calculate how long it took for a layer of sediment to form. They collected samples. They analyzed them. And the results were shocking. The clay layer contained iridium levels 30 times higher than normal. In some places, even higher. This was extraordinary. Anomalous. Impossible to explain through normal geological processes. Where did it come from? Luis Alvarez, trained in physics, thought like a physicist. He considered the possibilities. A nearby supernova? No. That would have left other isotopic signatures. Volcanic activity? No. Volcanoes don't concentrate iridium. The only plausible explanation. An asteroid impact, a large one, delivering massive quantities of iridium to Earth, spreading it globally in the impact debris. In 1980, the Alvarez team published their findings in the journal Science. They proposed that an asteroid approximately 10 kilometers in diameter had struck Earth 66 million years ago. The impact threw up a dust cloud that blocked sunlight, caused global cooling, and led to mass extinction. The iridium layer, found precisely at the KPG boundary, was the smoking gun. The reaction from the scientific community? Skepticism. Hostility even. Many Paleontologists rejected the idea outright. They preferred terrestrial. Explanations: volcanism, climate change, sea level fluctuations, competition with mammals. Not some cosmic catastrophe. That seemed too convenient, too dramatic, too much like science fiction. The debates were intense, sometimes personal. Scientists who supported the impact hypothesis were criticized, their data questioned, their methods challenged. The idea that dinosaurs, which had dominated Earth for 160 million years, could be wiped out by a single asteroid strike, seemed absurd to many. But then, evidence began to accumulate. The iridium anomaly was found, globally. Not just in Italy, but in Denmark, Spain, New Zealand, the Americas, Antarctica. Everywhere scientists looked at rocks from the KPG boundary, there was iridium. This suggested a global event, not a local phenomenon. Shocked quartz was found. This mineral, quartz crystals with distinctive planar deformation features, formed only under extreme pressure, like nuclear explosions or asteroid impacts. The shocked quartz was present in the boundary layer. More evidence of impact, spherules were discovered. Tiny glass beads formed from vaporized rock, tektites, characteristic of impact events. These were found in the KPG boundary layer, sometimes in massive quantities. In Haiti, in Mexico, in Texas, layers of impact spherules, centimeters thick, soot was found. Evidence of global wildfires. The boundary layer contained massive amounts of carbon, consistent with the burning of a significant portion of Earth's forests. This supported the evidence mounted. Year after year, study after study, more data, more analyses, more support for the impact hypothesis. But still, the critical question remained. Where was the crater? If an asteroid this large struck Earth, it would have created an enormous crater. Where was it? The answer came in the early 1990s. The discovery of the Chicxulub crater. And this discovery, like many great scientific discoveries, was a combination of detective work, luck, and connections between seemingly unrelated data, the story actually begins decades earlier. In the 1950s and 60s, Mexican petroleum company Pemex was conducting geophysical surveys of the Yucatan Peninsula, looking for oil. They discovered a massive circular structure, buried beneath sediment. A semicircular pattern of gravity and magnetic anomalies. Centered near the town of Chicxulub, the geophysicists knew this was unusual. A buried structure. Approximately 180 kilometers in diameter. But they thought it was volcanic. Perhaps an ancient volcano. They drilled cores. Found fractured rock. Shocked minerals. But the significance wasn't recognized. The data sat in company archives. Largely forgotten then. In the late 1970s, geophysicist Glenn Penfield was analyzing the same magnetic data for another oil company. He recognized the circular pattern. And he realized this wasn't volcanic. The structure, the size, the characteristics, they were consistent with an impact crater. A massive one. Penfield tried to publish his findings. But he faced obstacles. The data belonged to the oil company. It was proprietary. He couldn't share it freely. His work went largely unnoticed by the scientific community. Meanwhile, the Alvarez hypothesis was gaining attention. Scientists were searching for the impact crater. They knew it had to be somewhere. But where? Some suggested the ocean, where craters would be harder to find. Others suggested it had been destroyed by plate tectonics. Subducted. Lost forever, then. In 1990, the connections were made. A scientific meeting. Conversations between researchers. Someone mentioned the buried structure in Yucatan. Someone else mentioned the Alvarez hypothesis. The timing was right. The location made sense. The Caribbean region showed intense impact effects. Could this be it? Researchers obtained samples from the Chicxulub structure. They analyzed them. And the evidence was overwhelming. Shocked quartz. Melted rock, impact spherules. And the age. Dating to precisely 66 million years ago. The KPG boundary. This was it. This was the impact site, in 1991. The discovery was announced. The Chicxulub crater. 180 kilometers, in diameter. Buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula. The smoking gun had been found. Scientists could now calculate the impact energy. Model the environmental effects. reconstruct what happened. And the more they learned, the more certain they became. This was it. This was the cause of the extinction. The asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs. There were still debates. Of course. Science thrives on debate. Some researchers pointed to the Deccan traps. Massive volcanic eruptions in India. These eruptions had started before the impact and continued for hundreds of thousands of years afterward. Could volcanism, rather than the asteroid, have caused the extinction? The evidence suggests not. The Deccan traps certainly had environmental effects. They released massive amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. They caused climate fluctuations. Some species may have gone extinct due to the volcanism. But the global mass extinction, that coincides precisely with the asteroid impact. Not with the peak of volcanic activity. Recent studies have addressed these questions more thoroughly. Researchers have used sophisticated climate models, analyzed the timing of extinctions more precisely, studied the geochemistry of the boundary layer, and the conclusion is clear. The asteroid impact was the primary cause. The Deccan traps, while significant, didn't cause global extinction. In fact, some research suggests that the warming from the Deccan volcanism may have slightly buffered the cooling from the impact, reducing the extinction severity somewhat. Without the volcanism, the impact winter might have been even worse. As for dinosaurs being in decline before the extinction, this was debated for years. Some studies suggested that dinosaur diversity was decreasing in the last few million years of the Cretaceous, that they were already struggling before the asteroid hit, but more recent analyses, accounting for sampling bias, fossil preservation, geographic variation, indicate that dinosaurs were doing just fine. They were diverse, abundant, successful, right up until the very end. The fossil record, from the Hell Creek Formation in North America, one of the best studied late Cretaceous sites, shows high diversity right up to the KPG boundary. Their extinction was sudden, catastrophic, not the result of gradual decline. One day they were there, the rulers of Earth. The next, in geological terms, they were gone. Chapter 17, Lessons from the Past. What the extinction teaches us. What can we learn from the dinosaur extinction? More than you might think, because this story, this 66-million-year-old catastrophe, has profound implications for us today, in the 21st century. In fact, some research suggests that the warming from the Deccan volcanism may have slightly buffered the cooling from the impact, reducing the extinction severity somewhat. Without the volcanism, the impact winter might have been even worse. As for dinosaurs being in decline before the extinction, this was debated for years. Some studies suggested that dinosaur diversity was decreasing in the last few million years of the Cretaceous, that they were already struggling before the asteroid hit, but more recent analyses, Accounting for sampling bias. Fossil preservation, geographic variation. Indicate that dinosaurs were doing just fine. They were diverse, abundant, successful, right up until the very end. The fossil record, from the Hell Creek Formation in North America. One of the best studied late Cretaceous sites. Shows high diversity right up to the KPG boundary. Their extinction was sudden. Catastrophic. Not the result of gradual decline, one day they were there. The rulers of Earth. The next. In geological terms, they were gone. Chapter 17, Lessons from the Past. What the extinction teaches us. What can we learn from the dinosaur extinction? More than you might think, because this story, this 66-million-year-old catastrophe, has profound implications for us today, in the 21st century. First, it teaches us about the fragility of life, about vulnerability, about the randomness of existence. Dinosaurs dominated Earth for 160 million years. They survived climate changes, competition, previous extinctions. They were remarkably successful. The most successful large land animals in Earth's history, and yet, one random asteroid, one cosmic accident, one piece of rock in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it was over. Dominance is not permanence. Success is not immunity. Any species, no matter how well adapted, how widespread, how dominant, can be wiped out by the right catastrophe. This is humbling. This is sobering. This should make us think carefully about our own existence, our own vulnerabilities. Second, it reveals the importance of size. The extinction was size selective. Large animals died. Small animals survived. This has implications for modern conservation. Large animals today. Elephants. Rhinos. Great apes. Great cats. They're already struggling. They have low reproduction rates. High food requirements. Small populations. Restricted ranges. If a global catastrophe struck today, a nuclear war, a massive volcanic eruption, an asteroid impact, these large animals would be the first to go. They're the most vulnerable. Just as the large dinosaurs were. Size, which can be an advantage in normal times, becomes a fatal disadvantage during catastrophes. Third, It demonstrates the cascading effects of ecosystem collapse. The extinction didn't kill everything directly. The asteroid impact killed some animals, immediately, within the blast zone. But most died from the indirect effects: loss of food, collapse of the food web, changing climate. When ecosystems are disrupted, the effects ripple outward, affecting everything. This is relevant today, as we face environmental changes, climate change, habitat destruction, pollution. These don't just affect individual species. They affect entire ecosystems. And when ecosystems collapse, the effects cascade. Species that seem unaffected, that seem safe, can suddenly find themselves in crisis, because their food source disappeared, or their habitat changed, or their predators died out and competitors exploded in numbers. Fourth, it shows the resilience of life. Yes, 75% of species went extinct. That's catastrophic, devastating. But 25% survived. And from those survivors, life recovered. It adapted. It evolved, new forms emerged. Within millions of years, ecosystems were functioning again. Within tens of millions of years, they were as diverse as before. Life, as a phenomenon, is incredibly resilient. Individual species come and go. Ecosystems rise and fall. But life itself persists, adapts, finds a way. This is encouraging. Even in our darkest environmental scenarios, life will likely continue. Perhaps not human life. Perhaps not the species we know today. But life will endure. Fifth, it highlights the value of adaptability. The survivors were generalists, animals that could eat many things, live in many places, tolerate a range of conditions. The specialists died. Animals with very specific diets, specific habitat requirements, specific temperature ranges. They had no flexibility. And they perished. This is a lesson for conservation and for human society. Flexibility matters, adaptability matters. Systems, whether ecosystems or human systems, that are too specialized, too rigid, too dependent on specific conditions, are vulnerable. Resilience comes from diversity, from flexibility, from the ability to adapt. And sixth, perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that Earth is not safe. We live on a small planet, in a vast universe, full of things that could kill us. Asteroids, comets. They're out there. Thousands of them. Millions of them, orbiting the sun. Occasionally crossing Earth's path. The question isn't if another large asteroid will strike Earth. The question is, when? And will we be ready? Chapter 18, Modern Threats and the Next, Extinction, Today. We are living through another extinction event. Scientists call it the Holocene extinction, or the Anthropocene extinction. The sixth mass extinction in Earth's history. Caused not by an asteroid, not by volcanism, not by natural climate change, but by us. Humans, species are going extinct at rates 100 to 1,000 times higher than the background rate. Some estimates suggest even higher rates. We're losing species faster than we can describe them. Faster than we can study them. Faster than we can understand what we're losing. The causes are multiple. Habitat destruction. We've converted forests, grasslands, wetlands, into farms, cities, infrastructure. We've fragmented habitats, isolated populations, reduced wilderness to scattered fragments, climate change. We've increased atmospheric carbon dioxide by 50% since the Industrial Revolution. Global temperatures have risen. Weather patterns have changed. Ecosystems are shifting. Species are struggling to adapt. Pollution. We've contaminated air, water, soil, with chemicals, plastics, heavy metals, radiation. These pollutants accumulate in ecosystems, poison organisms, disrupt reproduction, overhunting and overfishing. We've driven species to extinction through direct exploitation. Passenger pigeons, once numbering in the billions, extinct by 1914. Countless other species, reduced to remnant populations, teetering on the edge. Pollution. We've contaminated air, water, soil, with chemicals, plastics, heavy metals, radiation. These pollutants accumulate in ecosystems, poison organisms, disrupt reproduction, overhunting and overfishing. We've driven species to extinction through direct exploitation. Passenger pigeons, once numbering in the billions, extinct by 1914. Countless other species, reduced to remnant populations, teetering on the edge. Invasive species. We've moved organisms around the world, deliberately or accidentally. These invasive species compete with natives, prey on them, introduce diseases, disrupt ecosystems. Island species, particularly vulnerable, have suffered massive extinctions, the difference between this extinction and the KPG extinction? We know it's happening. We understand the mechanisms. We have the knowledge. And, potentially the tools. To stop it. But do we have the will? The dinosaurs couldn't have prevented their extinction. They had no technology, no spacecraft. No warning systems. No ability to understand or respond to the threat. But we do. We have options. We have agency, today. We track near-Earth objects. NASA's Near-Earth Object Program. The Minor Planet Center. Other organizations around the world. They monitor asteroids and comets. Calculating orbits. Assessing threats. We know of thousands of near-Earth objects. And we discover more every month. We have plans. Theoretical ones at least. For deflecting asteroids. If we detect one on a collision course. With enough warning. We could potentially change its orbit. Push it away from Earth. Save ourselves. In September 2022. NASA's DART mission. Double asteroid redirection test. Successfully altered the orbit of an asteroid called Dimorphos. By crashing a spacecraft into it at high speed. The asteroid's orbital period changed by 33 minutes. Proof of concept. That we can, if necessary, defend Earth from asteroid impacts. This is remarkable. We are the first species in Earth's history capable of preventing our own extinction from asteroid impacts. The dinosaurs, the ammonites, the trilobites, they had no such capability. But we do, but asteroids aren't our only concern. Or even our primary concern. Climate change poses a slower, but equally serious threat. Not just to other species, but potentially to human civilization itself. The dinosaurs had no choice. They couldn't prevent the asteroid. We have choices. We can reduce emissions, protect ecosystems, adapt our societies. But will we? The irony is profound. We have unprecedented knowledge, unprecedented technology, unprecedented power over Earth's ecosystems. And yet, we're causing an extinction event. Through our actions. Through our choices. Or our failures to act. Can, if necessary, defend Earth from asteroid impacts. This is remarkable. We are the first species in Earth's history capable of preventing our own extinction from asteroid impacts. The dinosaurs, the ammonites, the trilobites, they had no such capability. But we do, but asteroids aren't our only concern. Or even our primary concern. Climate change poses a slower, but equally serious threat. Not just to other species, but potentially to human civilization itself. The dinosaurs had no choice. They couldn't prevent the asteroid. We have choices. We can reduce emissions, protect ecosystems, adapt our societies. But will we? The irony is profound. We have unprecedented knowledge, unprecedented technology, unprecedented power over Earth's ecosystems. And yet, we're causing an extinction event. Through our actions, through our choices, or our failures to act. Second, they're fossils. The dinosaurs left us a record, written in stone, a 160-million-year chronicle of evolution, adaptation, dominance, and extinction. These fossils teach us about evolution, about extinction, about how life responds to changing conditions, about deep time, about Earth's history. Museums around the world display dinosaur fossils. Millions of people, children and adults, visit these museums every year. Inspired, awed, curious. Dinosaurs spark scientific interest. They're gateway drugs to paleontology, to geology, to evolutionary biology, to science itself, for many scientists, myself included. Dinosaurs were the beginning, the thing that sparked curiosity, the reason we became interested in science, in Earth's history, in life itself. That legacy, that inspiration, is immeasurable. Third, their influence on Earth's ecosystems. Dinosaurs shaped the evolution of plants, of insects, of mammals, of countless other species. Their presence, their behaviors, their ecological roles, drove the evolution of other organisms. The world we inhabit today was shaped, in part, by dinosaurs, flowering plants, angiosperms. They diversified during the Cretaceous, partially in response to dinosaur herbivory. Plants evolved defenses, toxins, hard seeds, thorns. In response to being eaten, they evolved strategies to disperse seeds. Using dinosaurs as unwitting transporters, mammals remained small throughout the Mesozoic, possibly due to competition with dinosaurs, possibly due to predation pressure. When dinosaurs disappeared, mammals exploded in diversity, filling the niches left vacant. Would mammals have diversified if dinosaurs had survived? We'll never know, but the extinction created opportunity. Fourth, scientific inspiration and advancement. The study of dinosaurs has driven advances in multiple fields. Paleontology, obviously, but also geology, geochemistry, biomechanics, computer modeling, imaging, technology, CT scanning of fossils, revealing internal structures without destroying specimens, isotope analysis, determining diet, migration patterns, body temperature, biomechanical modeling, understanding how dinosaurs moved, how they fed, how they fought. These techniques developed for studying dinosaurs, have applications far beyond paleontology, medical imaging, engineering, materials science, climate science. The tools we develop for one purpose often find unexpected uses elsewhere. Fifth, cultural impact. Dinosaurs have captured human imagination like few other things. They appear in movies, books, art, toys, theme parks, popular culture worldwide. Why? What is it about dinosaurs that fascinates us so deeply? Perhaps it's their size. The sheer magnitude of these creatures. Sauropods. Weighing 70 tons. Predators 40 feet long. They dwarf anything alive today. They push the boundaries of what seems possible. Perhaps it's their alienness. They look unlike anything in our modern world. Strange body plans, bizarre adaptations, horns, frills, armor. They seem almost fantastical, like creatures from imagination. Yet they were real. Perhaps it's the tragedy, the extinction. The idea that these magnificent creatures, which dominated Earth for so long, were wiped out by random chance, by cosmic accident. There's something poignant, something moving about their story, or perhaps it's because they force us to confront deep time, to understand that Earth has a history, long and complex, that existed before us, that will continue after us. Dinosaurs remind us, we are not the first. We are not permanent. We are part of a much larger story. And finally, a warning. The dinosaurs remind us that extinction is real, that dominance is temporary, that Earth's history is punctuated by catastrophes, that nothing, no matter how successful, is guaranteed survival. This is their most important legacy. A reminder, written in stone, that life is precious, fragile, and worth protecting. Chapter 20, The Continuing Mystery, Unanswered Questions. Despite decades of research, despite remarkable discoveries, despite thousands of scientific papers and hundreds of books, mysteries remain. Questions that keep paleontologists awake at night. Puzzles that drive continued research. We still don't know exactly what the very first dinosaur looked like. We have good candidates. Eoraptor, Heterosaurus, Nyasasaurus. Small. Bipedal, carnivorous or omnivorous. But were these truly the first? Or were there earlier, forms we haven't discovered yet? The fossil record has gaps, particularly in the Middle Triassic, the Anisian and Ladinian stages, about 245 to 237 million years ago. This is precisely when dinosaurs were likely evolving from their archosaur ancestors. But we have very few fossils from this time. From the right environments, from the right parts of the world, we need more fossils. From the right time, from the right places, from regions that are currently understudied. Africa, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, these regions potentially hold the keys to understanding dinosaur origins. We still debate dinosaur metabolism. This has been argued for decades. Were dinosaurs warm-blooded like mammals and birds? Cold-blooded like modern reptiles? Or something in between? Did different groups have different metabolic strategies? The evidence points in multiple directions. Bone structure suggests rapid growth in some species, implying high metabolism. Isotope analysis suggests body temperatures higher than ambient, also suggesting endothermy. But size matters. Large animals retain heat better. They can maintain elevated body temperatures even with lower metabolic rates, the current consensus, if there is one, is that dinosaurs were probably mesothermic, intermediate between ectothermy and endothermy, with smaller theropods, particularly those close to birds, likely being fully endothermic. But we need more data, more analyses, more specimens. We still don't fully understand dinosaur behavior. This is particularly frustrating, because behavior is what makes animals come alive. But behavior doesn't fossilize. We have traces, footprints suggesting herding behavior, nesting sites, suggesting parental care. Healed bite wounds suggesting intraspecific combat, but we'd love to know more. Did they care for their young? For how long? Did different species have different parenting strategies? Were they social? Did they live in family groups? In larger herds? Did predators hunt in packs? Coordinate attack? Or were they solitary? Some evidence suggests complex social behavior. Trackways showing groups moving together. Bone beds with individuals of different ages. Nesting colonies. But interpreting this evidence is difficult. We have to be careful not to overinterpret. Not to project modern animal behavior onto extinct creatures. We still discover new species regularly. Every year, dozens of new dinosaur species are described. From China, Argentina, Mongolia, Africa, Madagascar, Antarctica. Even from well-studied regions like North America and Europe. There are still discoveries to be made. Still secrets buried in the rocks. Some of these discoveries are revolutionary, changing our understanding of dinosaur evolution. like Uranus, a large tyrannosaur with feathers, or Dreadnoughtus, one of the largest land animals ever, or Spinosaurus, revealing that some large theropods were semi-aquatic. How many dinosaur species were there? We've described about 1,000 species so far. But that's only a tiny fraction of the species that actually existed. Fossilization is rare. Preservation is rarer. Discovery is rarest of all. Estimates suggest there may have been 1,000 to 10,000 genera over the entire Mesozoic, perhaps 10,000 to 100,000 species. We've barely scratched the surface, and we still have questions about the extinction. The big picture is clear: asteroid impact, global catastrophe, mass extinction. But details remain debated. Did any non-avian dinosaurs survive? Briefly, beyond the KPG boundary, most evidence says no. The extinction was sudden, complete. But some fossils have been found in Paleogene rocks. Younger than the boundary, are these fossils that eroded from Cretaceous rocks and were redeposited? This seems likely. Fossils can be reworked, moved from older rocks into younger sediments. Or did some dinosaurs actually survive for a few thousand? Years before finally succumbing. We're still investigating, still analyzing the stratigraphy, the taphonomy, the dating, these mysteries, these unanswered questions. They're what drive continued research. They're why paleontologists keep searching, keep digging, keep analyzing. Because every fossil, every discovery, every new technique brings us closer to understanding, to reconstructing this incredible chapter of Earth's history. Chapter 21, Final Reflections, Deep Time and the Human Perspective. Let's end where we began. With perspective. Because the story of dinosaurs forces us to confront something profound. Something that our brains evolved for short-term thinking, struggle to comprehend. Deep time, humans have existed for approximately 300,000 years. Homo sapiens, our species. Modern humans. That seems like a long time. In human terms. It is, but in geological terms. In the vast sweep of Earth history. It's nothing. A blink. A moment, civilization. Agriculture. Cities. Writing. Recorded history. That's a mere 10,000 to 12,000 years. The pyramids of Egypt, ancient by our standards, are only 4,500 years old. The entirety of recorded human history. Everything we've built. Every empire, every discovery, every achievement is less than 5,000 years. 5,000 years. In geological time. That's nothing. Less than 1,000th of the time that dinosaurs dominated Earth. Dinosaurs. Non-avian dinosaurs dominated Earth for approximately 160 million years. Let's put that in perspective. 160 million years is 532 times longer than recorded human history. More than 500 times. If recorded human history were one day, the reign of dinosaurs would be more than a year and a half. Here's another way to think about it. The time separating Stegosaurus from Tyrannosaurus rex is greater than the time separating T. rex from us, Stegos. Lived approximately 150 million years ago. In the late Jurassic. T. rex lived 66 million years ago. In the latest Cretaceous. That's an 84 million year gap. Humans and T. rex are separated by only 66 million years. In a very real sense, humans are closer in time to T. rex than T. rex was to Stegosaurus. Think about that. When T. rex looked at Stegosaurus fossils, if it had the intelligence to do so, Stegosaurus would have been more ancient to T. rex than T. rex is to us. This challenges our intuition. We think of dinosaurs as existing at one time, the dinosaur age. But the Mesozoic era lasted 186 million years. That's an incredibly long time. Longer than the entire Cenozoic era. Our era. The age of mammals. Which has only lasted 66 million years so far, and yet, despite this vast span of time, despite their incredible success, despite their dominance, dinosaurs are gone. Extinct. Erased by a random, cosmic accident. This should humble us. This should make us think. We act as though our existence is permanent. Guaranteed. Eternal. As though the rules that govern the dinosaurs don't apply to us. As though we're different. Special. Exempt from the forces that shaped Earth's history, but we're not. We live on the same planet. Subject to the same laws of physics, the same biological constraints, the same cosmic risks. An asteroid large enough to cause a global catastrophe strikes Earth approximately every 100 million years. On average, these are called dinosaur killer asteroids. 6 to 10 kilometers in diameter. Or larger, the last one hit 66 million years ago. We're about 2/3 of the way through the current cycle. Of course. These are averages. Statistics. The next impact could be tomorrow. Next year. Next century. Or it could be 50 million years from now. We don't know. We can't predict with certainty. What we do know is this. The threat is real. The dinosaurs are proof. Extinction is not hypothetical. It's not abstract. It happened. It can happen, again. To any species. Including us, but here's the crucial difference. Here's what separates us from the dinosaurs: we know. We understand. We can see the threat coming. We have technology. We have agency. We have choices. The dinosaurs couldn't have prevented their extinction. They had no tools. No science. No understanding of orbital mechanics. No concept of asteroids or impacts. They were victims. Pure and simple. Unable to see the threat. Unable to respond. Unable to save themselves, but we can. We track asteroids. We study their orbits. We calculate impact probabilities. We develop deflection technologies. We have demonstrated, through missions like DART, that we can change asteroid trajectories. We are the first species in Earth's history capable of preventing our own extinction from cosmic impacts. This is remarkable. Unprecedented. In 4 billion years of life on Earth, no species has ever had this capability. We do. We have lifted ourselves. Through science. Through technology. Through intelligence. To a point where we can protect not just ourselves, but potentially all life on Earth from this particular threat. But protection requires vigilance. It requires continued investment in detection, in tracking, in deflection capabilities. It requires international cooperation, because an asteroid doesn't care about national borders. An impact affects everyone. Defending against this threat is a collective responsibility, and yet, while we worry about asteroids, while we develop technologies to deflect them, we're simultaneously causing our own extinction event. Through our actions. Through our choices. Through what we do every day to Earth's ecosystems. This is the great irony of our time. We have The knowledge to save ourselves from cosmic threats. But we're struggling to save ourselves from ourselves. From our own impacts on the environment. From our own unsustainable practices, the dinosaurs teach us humility. They remind us that we are not separate from nature. Not above it. Not immune to its forces. We are part of it. Subject to it. Shaped by it. They teach us that dominance is temporary. That success is not permanence. That nothing is guaranteed, but they also teach us responsibility. We are the first species on Earth, capable of understanding our own existence, our own history, our own place in the universe, and potentially capable of ensuring our own survival. Through knowledge, through wisdom, through careful stewardship of our planet. Epilogue. The endless fascination, the story continues, the study of dinosaurs continues. In the field, in museums, in laboratories, around the world, paleontologists work tirelessly, methodically, piece by piece, reconstructing the Mesozoic world, adding to our understanding, refining our knowledge, discovering new mysteries even as they solve old ones. They find footprints preserved in ancient mud, now turned to stone. And from these tracks, they reconstruct behavior, speed, gait, social structure. They analyze the spacing, the depth, the direction. Each footprint a snapshot. A frozen moment from 150 million years ago. They find nesting sites. Some with eggs. Some with embryos. Some with juveniles. And they learn about reproduction, growth, development, parental care. They find evidence of colonial nesting, like modern seabirds. Evidence of brooding, like modern birds. Evidence of rapid growth, like modern mammals. They analyze bone structure under microscopes, counting growth rings like those in trees, determining age, growth rates, seasonal patterns. They study bone histology, the microscopic structure, which reveals metabolism, activity levels, life history. Each thin section, a window into physiology. They study fossilized proteins. Amazingly, some proteins can survive millions of years. Degraded, fragmentary, but analyzable. They've recovered collagen from Tyrannosaurus rex bones, allowing comparisons with modern animals, confirming the evolutionary relationship with birds. They use computer models to simulate how dinosaurs moved, how they fed, how they fought. Finite element analysis to calculate bite forces, stress on bones, muscle attachments. They create digital reconstructions, testing hypotheses, exploring possibilities. Each simulation adding to our understanding and they continue to search. In the Badlands of Montana, the Hell Creek Formation, where Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops roamed. In the deserts of Patagonia, where the largest dinosaurs walked. In the Gobi Desert of Mongolia, where incredible preservation reveals feathered dinosaurs. In the rocks of Antarctica, once lush and forested, now frozen. Anywhere there are exposures of rock from the Mesozoic era. Anywhere erosion reveals ancient sediments. There might be fossils. There might be answers, there might be new species waiting to be discovered. New insights waiting to be revealed. The story of the dinosaurs is ultimately a story about Earth. About life. About time. About change. About extinction and renewal. About success and failure, about randomness and inevitability. It's a story that spans 160 million years of dominance, plus 66 million years of legacy. From the shadows of the Triassic to the catastrophe at the end of the Cretaceous, to the present day, where their descendants fly above us, sing in the trees, nest in our yards. It's a story of adaptation, of evolution responding to challenges, creating forms so diverse, so specialized, so perfectly suited to their environments, that they dominated every terrestrial ecosystem on the planet. It's a story of vulnerability, of how even the most successful, the most dominant, the most well-adapted organisms can be destroyed by events beyond their control, by cosmic accidents, by random chance. It's a story that reminds us that Earth has a history, deep and complex and fascinating, that existed long before us. Long before mammals dominated, long before the continents had their current shapes. Long before humans evolved to study and wonder. It's a story worth telling, worth studying, worth remembering, worth sharing with future generations. Because in understanding the dinosaurs, we better understand ourselves, our place in the universe, our responsibilities as the inheritors of this planet. And perhaps, if we're wise enough, if we learn the right lessons, how to ensure that humanity's story doesn't end the same way theirs did. The reign of the non-avian dinosaurs is over. Ended 66 million years ago. In fire, and darkness, and catastrophe. But their legacy lives on. In the rocks beneath our feet. In the birds above our heads. In the fossil record that teaches us about deep time. In the scientific insights that drive continued discovery. And in the endless, human fascination with these magnificent creatures that once ruled the earth. Their story is our story. Part of the same grand narrative of life on this planet, connected across millions of years. By the same forces, the same laws, the same beautiful, terrible, awe-inspiring reality. That life, in all its forms, is both incredibly resilient And profoundly fragile, this is the story of the dinosaurs. From their mysterious origins in the Triassic, through their spectacular rise to dominance. Through 160 million years of success. To their catastrophic extinction. And the world that emerged afterward, it is perhaps the greatest story ever told.